see what else, or yeah, I keep getting you really focusing on what it is that you want to see in a person, but really dismissing the other parts, like, oh, he's got to go to college. Like, there's a denial that you're carrying in all of these relationships. And I feel on a deeper level, it's almost like they're telling me it's going back to a time when, much earlier on in your life, when it's like someone made a choice of someone else over you. I don't know. Did you feel like a sibling rivalry, like your parents gave your sisters more attention? Or anybody? Did you feel like where were you in the siblingness of your family?
In the middle.
Okay. So did you feel like, you weren't the oldest, you weren't the youngest? Did you ever have a memory of having to win over? Girls can be competitive. I know that. I don't have any sisters,
right,
but I can only imagine. And you have two? I think God created it that way. I think I would have been hell on wheels, quite frankly. Seriously, give me that bigger closet. I mean, I don't know, but... So tell me more about that, because I'm getting something earlier on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was always one with a strong personality, so, and the other two were, a bit quieter and like to listen to what my parents said for the most part.
But did you want to win the affection? You want to stand out? Were you kind of like a limelight stealer?
Well, so this is, I guess I'm trying to avoid even having to tell this story, but the first thing that came up was whenever it was my older sister's birthday, and I haven't thought about this in forever, but whenever it was her birthday. Of course. Yeah.
It's a long time ago, right?
It is, yeah. And so every time when we lived in St. Louis, and we had a lot of family that lived there, so we'd always have big family parties. And I would always be just awful. Every time we had these parties, I would be awful because she was getting the attention. And
right.
I mean, I don't know. For some reason, it drove me crazy, and I would just be so bad because I knew it kind of would ruin her party.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to admit that, but
it's very helpful. I'm psychic. You know that I could see this, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is going to be very helpful to you, because what happens with subconscious patterns, and there's no judgment. Hey, you're not the only sister that wanted more attention. The problem that's happening now, and where it got transferred into, it was like a behavior that, remember last week, I think we said there's learned and unlearned behavior. That came up, right? Did that come up with you? Okay.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Learned and unlearned behavior. So you learned that, I'm pretty sure you were born a little baby in the crib thinking, I'm going to ruin my sister's party. Right? So you learned some of the tricks of the trade and how to get attention. And so the problem now, again, is it comes up for those brief relationships where you got crushed. Kelly, I think this is really going to be mind-blowing for you. This really had nothing to do about the actual guy. I don't believe that you were in love with any of them. It was the same old reminder that this guy was choosing something else, like college, over you. It's like you set it up so that you could be that second, that bridesmaid person again, because you're so uncomfortable with it. It's like a lesson you had to learn. Is this making sense?
Yeah, sort of.
It's like nothing to do about the guy. I think this is really going to help you when it comes to Adam, because when I looked up infatuation in the dictionary.com, I really got this feeling intuitively that it wasn't about you being in love with these people. An infatuation and crush has to do with kind of a made-up story about who you think they are, which, they may be physically attractive, and that's helpful. But it was really more about you setting yourself up to win over anything else. And you didn't. That's what was crushing, not their lack of love for you. Can you understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
This is kind of huge.
It is. Yeah, I'd say so. Because, and that is always what it is. I'm always like, why is it? Like, reason, no matter, even if we were in a committed relationship, he always had other obligations.
Everybody does, because you keep setting it up that way. I'm telling you, we're going to help you with this.
Okay.
Because on a deeper level, you have an understanding of this. What you know, you don't know what you don't know. You just keep thinking that, like say Adam, for example, is wow, and you ran into him and he's cute and you get that feeling. But Kelly, I really get with this. It's more about maybe finally I'll get him over. I'll get the focus. Yeah. I'll get his focus. I think if you had his focus, you wouldn't even want him anymore. What's that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I said.
Right. We're on the same page here. Okay. This is a good thing, because when you realize that you've been running on a sibling rivalry, so to speak, you can change the game. For instance, you heal from this feeling, and I'm going to ask for healing right now and continue your awareness so that you know when you're doing this, because it's a pattern that got played out, and you got a feeling of success with it. It was one of the ways you could feel good. Who doesn't understand that? That's had siblings and rivalries and competitors and the feeling of winning something. So you're just a highly competitive person, right? Probably really good in sports.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sure a lot of sports teams want you on their team. I'm not saying it's a bad thing in certain cases, but the guy that's going to college and you lost, you didn't lose the Super Bowl, okay? Right?
Okay. Yes. All right.
Okay. Right. So now Adam walks by you at work, and you're like, your ears perk up. You're like, there's, the old pattern is here's a chance again to score a touchdown, right? Or win the game.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like you're not even seeing him. It's that old competitive, like, what's more important than me? What's Adam got going that's more important than me? Right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, no, you're totally right.
I know, I feel like clapping, so I will. Because now you can actually make some conscious decisions about whether you want to spend time. See, that's the whole thing about the infatuation, because I like that word popped in intuitively, infatuation. So I was like, okay, guys, what's, tell me more about Kelly's infatuation. And they're like, infatuation is, like, we all know what it is. It's like a crush means you don't really know the person. You don't really know much more than superficial appearances, right?
Right.
And when you get to know somebody, it takes a while. I have to say, I've known Dean 5 years. I think there's still things where I'll go, wow, I just didn't really, there's just, people are so complex. And and after this superficial stuff moves off, you're like, what do I have here? Right? Is this person gonna drive me crazy in 10 years?
Yeah.
Right? So the love, really loving. Now, we talked last week, you said you have a lot of love to give. Giving love to someone, again, I'm going to go back to this college guy. He's like the perfect one. He's like, he chose college over you. And you're like, I know, I understand, but now do you understand differently? That was you setting it up so that you could lose to something else again?
Yeah. No, yes, I do.
Okay. So if you didn't have that going on, which after today you continued like consciousness of it, you can be aware of this and not do this anymore. That's the good news about self-growth and improvement. Once you recognize patterns, you can change your behavior and get different results. So So say we go back in time, and there he is, and he chooses college. You might look at him and go, well, I really don't want a guy that, whatever. There'd be something else that you haven't really gone deeper with these guys. Does that make sense? You haven't gone past the superficial, right. They've rejected you and you go into a pain and then you feel bad about yourself thing.
Right. Yes. Yep.
See, I bet you if you spent 6 months with a guy that went to college, you'd be glad he's going to college. You'd be giving him a good riddance basket, quite frankly. Please go to college.
Right.
Right?
Yes, right.
Okay. You don't get that far because energetically you've got it set up to not be the focus, because then you get to compete and get it. Kind of brilliant on your part. You see?
Yeah.
But you'll never be satisfied. Then you got to feel bad again. And the interesting thing that I've learned about transformation, and there's no judgment. You know me by now. Like, I've done more things that, like there was, my inner circle. I had the neurovirus last week. Made the news. I was, felt deathly ill. And it's like, I'm not telling very many people about this, because what I've learned energetically is that, so say I don't feel well, okay? So then I announce it to the universe, and then I broadcast it, and then I've got everybody talking about how I don't feel well. Well, you know what that does? That just keeps perpetuating. Ann doesn't feel well. Ann doesn't feel well. You were on my telecall. I explained it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But my pattern used to be, when I was younger, I got a lot of attention when I was sick. So I used to love to tell people when I was sick. If I told my mom I was sick, she'd make me some soup and, get me some saltines and ginger. I got treated like a queen when I was sick. So guess how sick I got? I was like sick most of my 20s. Right? It worked for me.
Yeah.
It worked.
Right.
So there's so many things that we do that aren't of the healthiest choices, but when I say it works, it doesn't mean it really works, but it serves the purpose and the need that we feel that we need at the time. And if I felt that I needed a lot of attention from being sick, guess what? I came up with a lot of colds. I was always at the doctor's. And I really was sick. I wasn't making it up, but can you see how my belief system set it up so I was chronically ill?
Right, yeah.
Right. I have no need to be sick now. I'm just telling you. I have no need for sympathy, so I really rarely get sick. So when I'm talking about, but if I do, I acknowledge it. Actually, when I got a cold last winter, I said, you know what? I need this time. And I bless that time, and I honor myself, and I try to make it the best experience I can. I'm very gentle with myself now, because if I need attention and a few days off, and if that's the way it ends up that I get it because I'm ignoring myself on some level, I'm like, okay, here we go. So that's what I'm saying about your pattern that you've had around competing and winning the affections of whoever you're involved with so that you can win. And that's really how I see it. Really, really cut and dry. I think it's going to be very easy for you to catch yourself in that pattern. Like if Adam says, oh, I've got something else to do Valentine's Day. Can't you see before this conversation you'd just be steaming mad?
Yes, yeah. Right.
And now it's like, oh, Adam's got something else to do. Well, so do I. Can you see that you can consciously steer?
I do. I just mean, like, do you really? I do, and this is great. But now it's like I almost feel like an identity crisis. Like, what? This has been what I've been going on my whole life. Now
I know. Well,
how do I?
Well, it's okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, time for some good news.
Okay. Good.
Okay, what can you do instead? All right, hold on. Let me tune in. Okay, and this is where the Power Wealth Center is going to come in well next week, because you've been operating by setting yourself in this form of competition between them and either other women they're interested in or their job or whatever it is that's not you, has created, like I said, a pattern. But if